of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into SST on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your podcast apps, as well as subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube so you know when we drop new episodes. Also, leaving a comment on YouTube, very nice, very nice. Lets the video build up a little more, get in front of more eyeballs and ear holes. So we appreciate you for any engagement, as well as on social media at Subway Sports Talk on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc. But joining me today, one half of the designated hitters, the World Baseball Classic man himself, because he's a classic man, Andrew Calagna. My friend, how are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Ready to talk about the sports story, like the record-breaking sports story that like everyone is talking about. Not even just in New York, just around the country. The New York Rangers broke an NHL record the last two games where they scored back-to-back 6+ goal games and they had a shutout. Unfortunately, they lost last night and they couldn't continue that streak. But first time in NHL history, then back-to-back games, scored 6+ goals and got a shutout. So big stuff. I'm ready to break it all down and see what it means. I know Pat Boyle was at the Rangers game last night. Big hater, big
Islanders fan, right?
He's a big Islanders fan. He likes to jab it in the Rangers fans whenever he gets. Just he's they're a pathetic franchise, and pathetic fans of a pathetic franchise. So
he's always jabbing his stuff in other people's face. You know what I mean? It's
that's his brand. That's his brand.
Let's do that hockey though. Let's go. It's pretty lit. Good job, Rangers. No.
Dude,
give us in 27 seconds where the Rangers are at right now.
Dude, they're hitting their stride at the moment. The offense is clicking. Shesterkin's standing on his head. It's exactly what you want as the playoffs are coming up in the next month. So that's exactly what you want. You want the team to be coming together. It took a couple of games for Kane to get acclimated into the Rangers lineup, but now they're all seem to be gelling together, and let's go. Let's go forward, man.
Perfect timing. That was exactly on the dot, wasn't it? At least my calculations there. I was 27 seconds on the dot. Good for the Rangers. I'm happy that it's cooking up and looking up for them, because obviously there was a little bit of stress in the Rangers world after the trade that it didn't hit right away. But these things take some time, and many fans were saying that from the get-go. And here we go. So now, to tell you guys the plan quickly, Andrew's here, so you could probably assume that we're going to talk about some baseball. And obviously we're going to touch on the World Baseball Classic, kind of the overarching themes that went on with the WBC and the real increased vibe around this tournament that doesn't always exist. And kind of baseball, the greater baseball world is looking at this as an absolute win. We're going to discuss to see if that was true, what we like, what we don't like, what we should change, what we shouldn't change, etc. And as well, we got to talk about our Mets and Yankees, mostly the Yankees on this particular episode. And you might be able to guess what's going to be the topic here, because Volpe, our guy, the shortstop, possibly the future, but how soon is that future? That will be discussed next week. Just some programming notes really quick. Next week, Alec Argento, Andrew, and I are going to go full swing, all the way, deep dive, Mets, Yankees, preview, the odds, the over-unders, the picks, the whatnot, the predictions, lineups, rotations, depth, the whole nine. So if you're looking for that, stay tuned next week, early next week, obviously opening day being just about a week away. Wonderful time to be a sports fan. So Andrew, let's start off with the World Baseball Classic. Obviously, we're going to get to Yankees. We'll get to Mets. Yeah. But the WBC, man, it hit. Now, I got to be full transparent, hand up here. I was not tapped in like some other baseball fans. I know like you were. I did catch some of it here and there. I was occupied with my NBA. I was occupied with the March Madness. So there was stuff going on. It's not like it was going up solo, but there was a really big-time energy around this tournament, albeit on social media, with numbers that are coming in from televisions across the world that are insane. So as a Yankees fan, as a lifelong baseball fan, as a World Baseball Classic appreciator and fan yourself, did this tournament live up to that billing, live up to that outside hype that it lived with on social media?
Oh, absolutely, man. Even in the earlier rounds, just like, again, Not a lot of people are waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch Chinese Taipei versus not North Korea. North Korea does not have versus just Korea. Versus Korea. No one's waking up at 5 a.m. But even those games, they were
They're
selling
dropping
out.
bombs in that one.
There's a big ceasefire there. Yeah, no, even those games that were happening at like 5 o'clock in the morning, like I was waking up then to watch those games, and there were great baseball games. Obviously, peaked USA versus Japan, the final, but even like Italy, who had I don't think any regular sports fan could name any players on Italy, and they only had like a couple of major leaguers. I mean, Matt Harvey was starting for Team Italy, and they made it out of pool play. They like them in Cuba, advanced into the next round. Like crazy, crazy, great stories. Just fun all around. Man, like all these other countries, they showed how much they love the game of baseball, and I feel like as an American, I wish that our fans would be able to show the same type of passion and very soccer-esque, I guess I would say, in the chants and the atmosphere, and just like how much like the countries just got into it. It was just like it was electric to just be able to sit there and watch it. Like I felt like I was dragging a lot of my friends, like kicking and screaming, into the World Baseball Classic. Like I was texting you and Alec like relentlessly saying, guys,
Yes.
you got to get on this. And then I know Alex said he would watch Team USA, and those games were great. Even when they lost to Mexico, like those were like legitimate, like great baseball games. Even though they're exhibition games, like the atmosphere was electric. Even in Arizona, in Miami, where they have a big Latin American community down there. Like USA was basically on the road the entire time while they're down in Miami facing Venezuela and facing Cuba. Like and it was just an absolute electric atmosphere and exactly what you want. As a baseball fan, I would love to watch this every single year instead of the last like 4 weeks of spring training. Like that's meaningless baseball to me. Like,
Right.
I get excited about spring training the first like 2 weeks just to whet my baseball appetite, and then I'm ready for the regular season start. But like to have that October energy just injected into March was like unreal. Absolutely unreal. It's exactly what you want as a baseball fan.
And all those are really great points, and it opens up obviously the further conversation. And this isn't exact like one for one or perfect analogy here, but that phrase that is no good deed goes undone. Again, it's not a good deed per se, this tournament. It's bigger than that, but to use that phrase as an analogy, there's always blowback and there's always a negative, and it's always seemingly the Americans here who are being the Debbie Downers, who are being the negative Nancys, who want to say, "Oh, well, I don't care about that. We didn't even send our best players. We're gonna get hurt now. My Mets and my Yankees and my Dodgers and my whoever's, they're gonna get hurt in the WBC." Like that stuff came in. You're going to expect that stuff to a certain extent. It is negative though that exists because it's unfortunate, and it's a classic like American type move of saying like, oh, like this matters to you guys so much. Speaking to like other countries, like it doesn't even matter to us. Like you didn't even get our A team, right? And it's kind of this annoying thing where in basketball we are the best, and it was pretty easy for a while, and then all of a sudden we're sending college players, wasn't as easy. Okay, now we just lost with some real stars in the NBA. We're turning this thing up. We got to make sure we're the best again. We cared about it. With the World Cup, we've never been there to the top of that mountain, right? Like we've never been to the top of that mountain, but we know the importance of it. We kind of get the world atmosphere of it, and we're striving to be better. With baseball, there's a confidence from Americans saying we are the best in this thing. But with that being said, there's not the pride factor from fans and apparently some players here. There's not that pride factor to prove it every 4 years or every 3 years or whatever, how many years the World Baseball Classic is. That's unfortunate. And I really kind of got annoyed and a little frustrated with some of the comments people were making about Edwin Diaz getting hurt. And we're going to talk about that obviously to a further extent because it was so obvious to so many people how big this was to so many countries and players and fans across the world. And to just say like, oh, like how dare some of these players go play for their country when they signed a contract with their team? right? And like that kind of made me upset a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm really happy with Francisco Lindor's comments, like basically just trying to remind people, like, hey, this means a lot to a lot of us. Like this is really, really important, and like this gets us out of bed more so than almost anything in the world, right? Like that vibe of like this is something that you just may not understand right now. I get that, but I hope you get what I'm saying. And on the other side, we had many players and many pundits and talking heads saying, I can't believe so-and-so is hurt. I can't believe Edwin Diaz is out for the year. He just signed this contract. What a waste. What a bum. What a blah, 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 blah. And that sucked. I hated that energy around it. And I'm glad that a lot of people did step up to the plate and say, hey, can we look at the big picture here? This is not about Americans and the Mets season and this. It's way bigger than any of that. And I'm really happy that a guy like Lindor stepped up and said it to try to remind some folks how big this thing is.
And even like Trey Turner, he's been to World Series before. He said like the home run he hit in Venezuela to put the USA over there was the biggest home run of his life, the biggest hit of his life. And the atmosphere, he said, it was unlike anything else he's ever participated in. So like it's a real thing. And the injuries suck. But at the same time, guys get injured in spring training. And if Gavin Lux didn't completely tear his ACL off the bone, just like gingerly sliding into third base in spring training, like it could happen anywhere. Injuries are part of the game, and unfortunate, like it sucks that it happens so close to home, and especially for someone who's electric as Diaz. It sucks for the Mets and it sucks for the game of baseball that you don't have that kind of a player, being able to play this year. But
and
just
real quick, and it happened not during the play. Like it happened after the game, which was a weird thing too.
Yeah, but listen, if he tore his knee gingerly hopping up and down on the field, like that thing was gonna give out at some point anyway. Like I don't think that like him like lightly jumping up and down was any different than pitching, or he could have like hurt it like getting out of bed at some point. Like you just don't know with an injury like that. Like I don't know. I can't get on. I can't allow myself to sink to that level to get like angry about it when I've gotten so many great things from the tournament.
Right.
I guess it's easier for me to say as a Yankee fan if we didn't have really, let's say, Aaron Judge participated and he got hurt doing, or even when like 2013, Mark Teixeira, he broke his hand in batting practice and that sucked his took his power out for the year. But like it was still a great tournament even back then. Like it just, injuries are part of the game. You can't put bubble wrap around these guys, and maybe there's a discussion to be had that, if you want pitchers to participate, that maybe you move this tournament into the All-Star break or something like that. You do it in July where guys are already pitching and they're not trying to get built up. They're already, they're already ready to participate in the season. Maybe we can have that kind of discussion, but like, man, I can't get behind this notion that it was a mistake for Edwin Diaz to participate or any of these players participate, because the product on the field was it was too good to say that.
And I typically enjoy disagreement on this podcast, but this is a place where I'm happy that we're aligned, because it's just frustrating. And it's just like an out of touch thing where, you're seeing these TV numbers and TV numbers are close to home for you and I, Andrew, obviously for the businesses that we've worked in our day. And you're seeing like the households that are watching these tournaments in all these different countries are like 70% of television units are turned in or tapped into the Puerto Rico game or the Japan game or whatever it is. And like, that's incredible. Those are numbers that don't exist.
No, 97.4% of Japanese households tuned into the Ohtani versus Trout at bat.
Which is crazy to me. Like, are they together, or is anybody at a bar where like everyone is home, or do they turn their TV on before they went out to their friend's house to watch the game?
I have no idea.
Nonetheless, we all know how maybe I shouldn't say how Fugazi Nielsen is to you while you're out here, but TV ratings are TV ratings. But no, it's just
it's all made up numbers, man. It's all made up numbers. Don't tell my boss.
But no, it just made me a little frustrated, like seeing some people like praising Brandon Nimmo for being like, yeah, like the only thing I care about is the Mets season. That's why I'm not playing in the World Baseball Classic. And unfortunately, he got hurt the next day, sliding into second, like you said with Gavin Lux, like with the ACL. And thankfully, Nimmo's not that hurt, so he should be fine pretty soon. that's okay. But like, again, like you said, you can't put these players in bubble wraps. That's enough on the injury front. I don't want to poo-poo this into a negative Nancy conversation here.
Yeah.
So talking about the game itself, one thing, Drew, when I turned it on, this is funny that I had this reaction right away. I actually had a moment where I went like, "Oh my, what's happening? They're stepping out of the box." Like
Yeah.
I already mentally kind of trained myself to get used to the quick pitching and the pitch clocks and whatnot. And then World Baseball Classic, like Jeff McNeil against Shohei Ohtani, last inning, takes the first pitch, steps out like 7 feet
Mm.
behind the box, and he's taking his practice swings. And I gotta say, I don't know how I felt. I had a whole range of emotions. It felt right. It felt big. It drew out those last at bats in the ninth inning of that game. But my brain was already mentally trained to be like, pitch clock, come on, let's go. Let's move this
Yeah.
thing. And I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but it was just something I noticed.
It's going to be interesting when those guys come back to spring training. They got like a week to be able to get used to the rules again, especially the USA players and certain guys that played late into the tournament. So they gotta be able to jump. I think Glaber got a violation the other day, and it was his first game back from the tournament. I think it was yesterday. He got a pitch clock violation.
It's just crazy
So
how quickly we all get trained on this stuff. About a month
mhm.
ago, everyone's freaking out about the pitch clock, and now we're all like, "Wait, why are they stepping out in the World Baseball Classic? That's weird."
Yeah, and then it was funny. Otani stepped off the mound earlier in the tournament to like check his like he held out his hand to the umpire to check him for sticky stuff, and the umpire was like, "The fuck are you doing? Like we don't care about sticky stuff in the World Baseball Classic." He's just like, "Oh yeah, shit." Okay, so I kept going about his business.
That is all great. And what I want to ask you this: what did you notice from a stylistic standpoint? Because you do get this mesh of style when you see the DRs and the PRs and the Cubas and the Americas and Japan all kind of come into one. Is there anything that when you watch this tournament kind of jumps out to you from a style standpoint that kind of catches your eye or makes you wish that something was a little more incorporated into MLB?
Well, yeah, it's definitely a lot more flair. You could definitely tell like the guys are just like having fun with it. I know, when it's your team's on the line and you're everyone seems to take it a little more seriously, I guess, the regular season and postseason ball, and doesn't really take the time to just appreciate that you're playing a children's game at the end of the day. So I feel like having that laid back kind of vibe, but like still guys still tried and participated, but like kind of that laid back vibe of just having fun with it, and just it made it more fun for me as a viewer. Um, and seeing the fans get into it so much at the same time. So like just seeing it matter, and then it just being like a laid back atmosphere at the same time. So it was like the kind of the best of both worlds there.
Were there any players on Team USA or other or elsewhere that kind of won you over in this tournament? Any players that stick out to you that maybe you didn't have a strong opinion on beforehand that you watched in this tournament from any country and said like, "Wow, I love that guy. I love his energy. I love how he plays the game, and I look forward to now keeping up with him in the MLB this season or etc."
A bunch of guys from Japan, to be honest with you. So there's two pitchers that are going to be that every baseball fan's going to know in the next 5 years. There's Sasaki and Yamamoto, and they both pitched in I believe in the semifinals. Um, both like 20, 21 years old, hard throwing guys, like just like absolute filthy stuff. I like they were like the ace and the number two of the Japanese pitching staff, and like Otani and Darvish were like the 3 and 4. Like that's how good they are. And there's also that outfielder Yoshida that the Red Sox signed, and he looked a lot better than I thought he was going to be. But again, you're talking about small sample size, but like that guy can run. He was so fast. He was the guy who scored um, from first base to for them to beat Mexico in the semifinals. Like the dude was like almost caught Otani, almost ran past him. Like, and Otani's fast. Otani's like sprint speed in the final was like he was like 4 seconds down the first baseline, which
Yeah.
is bonkers for a pitcher. Just how great Otani is. So like the Japanese team, like they brought their absolute A squad, and they were so much fun to watch. I look forward to like seeing those guys, a bunch of those guys come over to the bigs like very, very soon. I think they
Yeah.
should be posted in like the next couple of years.
And I think the Trey Turner side of it is really cool too, because I think
Yeah.
he created some fans of himself with his play, obviously his play, but then again, his comments and everything, the energy he had and talking about what he did there. That's the type of stuff that there's fans out there who watch Trey Turner once to 4 times a year, right? When they come to town and they catch the game or something like that. Now they're like, yo, this Trey Turner dude is awesome, right? Like that's really, really awesome. On the contrary, there's another guy on the American squad who is now the butt of many jokes. The obvious jokes being which, wow, the best pitcher and hitter to ever play or Shohei Ohtani and the other best baseball player in the game right now. Imagine if they were on the same team. Like how many times was that joke made? And it
Yeah,
was so
seriously.
funny every time. But some players for USA made a name for themselves. And Mike Trout, who had a pretty good tournament elsewhere, he's the
Yeah.
butt of the joke, and he's continued to be the scapegoat for the fake great player, the guy who puts up all these numbers is incredible to watch, blows away anybody who is graced to watch him in live action or on TV. And he strikes out swinging on 3 strikes in the biggest moment of the tournament against his teammate in the final 3-2 countdown, won the whole 9. And he's now just the butt of jokes again. How do you
But
feel about this, Drew? Like, how do you feel about the Trout hate and all the
listen,
vitriol that goes his way?
that wasn't even his worst at bat. Like Otani was pumping like 102. Like I get swinging like through, and then like through like a filthy 87-mile-an-hour slider that like tailed off at the last second. So I get striking out on that. The 2 at bats that pissed me off for Trout were like pitches that were like there were 2 men on in both times with Trout at the plate, and like the pitchers were coming inside. They were about to hit him, and he maneuvered himself out of the way both times. Just let the fucking ball hit you. You're down by 1. Like, let the inning continue and get on base, like, however you can. And he was like, that pissed me off more than anything. And more than the Otani striker. Because once Mookie ground into the double play in the 9th inning, I knew it was over. Like, there was no way they were, be able to scoop by 1 more run with Otani as pumped up as he was. So,
Throwing absolute smoke,
yeah,
like for
dude,
real. He
my
was
God, it's
pumping.
ridiculous.
And I forget who the color guy was on the broadcast, but he was like, you got to watch out. He's not used to being in this situation. The juices are flowing.
Smoltz.
It was Smoltz.
Smoltz, the
He might get a
worst.
couple too many RPMs going right now. He might be a little wild. He threw 1 ball and Smoltz was all vindicated, and then he just pumped right by Trout the entire at bat. But like,
Yeah.
what do you say to people like Alec who believe like Mike Trout is fake news? Like he's not actually a great player who doesn't help winning and all this stuff. What do you say to those
I mean,
commenters out
I've
there?
been saying the same thing I've been saying to Alec for like the last like 4 years, that he's wrong. And like you're talking about a small sample size of, again, this was like the biggest moment of Mike Trout's career. Uh, and he's been in the major since 2011. So, this was like he's played in 1 playoff series. So you're going to judge him off of, 1 game. I mean, I guess you could, but I don't know. Like what are you gonna? He had that single that he legged out into a double to start off the game, and he was able to score on that. So like, he did fine. Mike Trout did fine.
Yeah, Mike Trout's
Nobody should be out here worrying about Mike Trout.
people are though. People are very worried
Yeah.
about Mike Trout. It's a weird thing that we have going. It's like that rings culture that exists in basketball, probably more so. It's like for basketball and quarterbacks, right? Like you could be the best player ever. If you don't win a championship, like you're trash in some people's eyes. And it's just ridiculous. And it's even more ridiculous in the world of baseball because like we just saw Aaron Judge have this ultra incredible season and the Yankees flamed out in the playoffs. Guess what? Is anyone saying Aaron Judge isn't incredible? He hasn't won a ring and he might be a few years away from getting some of that same vitriol. If we're being completely honest, right? Like if the Yankees don't come away with a World Series appearance and a championship in the next 3 to 5 years, what are people going to say about Aaron Judge? Like keep that same energy, right? Like if you're going to be like that,
Same
like
thing with DeGrom. Same thing with
yeah.
DeGrom. DeGrom went to the playoffs 1 year, his entire Met career. Like, does that not make DeGrom like the best pitcher on the planet? Because it just is. Listen, baseball is a team sport. It's always been a team sport. It's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL. where you can just inject talent from the drafts. Like you have to develop players. Like it's the most team sport of all the team sports. So like, yes, Ohtani and Trout are on the same team, but the rest of the lineup is, is bare bones dog shit that they've like made terrible signings, or they went out and got uh who's the third
Rendon.
Rendon, like, and he's been hurt the entire time as an Angel. It's just like, they should go out and sign Albert Pujols, and then he turns into a pumpkin. The second he goes to the Angels, like, it's just a cursed franchise in my mind. So I don't know. I enjoy watching Trout play. I just really wish he would be on like an actual contender. And I'm looking forward to Ohtani leaving the Angels in the offseason to either sign with the Mets or the Dodgers, and actually like see him compete in the playoffs on a big stage like he did in the World Baseball Classic.
Can we not have him go to the Dodgers though? Can we not have him go to the Dodgers? I mean, I'm holding up my Mets hat for anybody watching on YouTube. Obviously, I'm biased with wanting him to go to the Mets, but like, come on, the Dodgers, they got everybody already. What do they need more guys for? Come on. You know what I'm saying? Unbelievable.
Listen, he didn't want to go to New York to, in the first time around. Maybe he changed his mind. I don't know. But like, I know the Yankees aren't signing because that would require Hal Steinbrenner to spend money, which is not happening. So he's either going to be a Met or he's going to be a Dodger. There's no in between.
So basically, the World Baseball Classic was an absolute win for baseball. And to all the people out there with their underwear in a bunch saying, I don't care about the World Baseball Classic. Why am I supposed to care about it? You know what? Just like be happier in life. I don't know, man. Enjoy something outside of your realm for 1 second here. The Mets season, the Yankee season is going to go on. It's going to be probably very good for both teams for the most part. We're going to talk about that more next week and a little bit more in just a few minutes here. But like, I just did not understand that. It's like the whole thing, like some people get mad when the World Cup happens. Like, oh, now you guys care about soccer, like who soccer's stupid. It's like, yeah, maybe it's cool to root for a thing that the entire country can get behind once every 4 years. It's just like a weird thing that people get hung up on. And I'm happy that it's over, I guess, in that regard, that we don't have to hear some of these complaints about something that deserves no complaints. Your guy missed a few weeks of spring training. And unless you're a Mets fan, you really have no gripes about injuries for the most part here. So get over it. Get over it. Now you mentioned 2026 is the next year for the World Baseball Classic. You mentioned that you also would like it to be less years between each tournament. My rebuttal was, does that dilute it? Does that make it even harder for some of the stars to decide to come and play in the World Baseball Classic? I think, what is it, 3 years or 4 years now? What is it?
Three, next 2026. So I think it's supposed to be every 4 years, but then it was supposed to be it's supposed to be in 2021, but then it didn't happen because of COVID. So I think it might not be, it might be 4 years afterwards. But honestly, like the tournament is so great for the sport that like maybe if you could do it every 3 years or every 2 years, I think that would be great. Like, I don't know, guys were ducking out anyway, to not participate. Pitchers, the USA pitchers especially, like Merrill Kelly should never have been starting a game 7 type scenario for anybody. Never mind Team USA. So, so I guys are gonna bow out anyway. It doesn't matter if it's 2, 3, 4 years. So I would just rather like to see the game of baseball continue to grow and continue to continue to thrive, because this was the best thing that that baseball could do, and Rob Manfred could ever hope for the sport of baseball. It was just absolutely electric from start to finish, man. And if you missed it, like I feel genuinely bad for anyone who tried to poo-poo it the whole time, because you missed out on genuinely October level baseball in March. So that's that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I don't have a strong opinion on the timing. I would say that keeping it at the 4 years makes sense. I think that you don't want to dilute it. You don't want it to become, oh, we got a new winner every 2 years. Like, who cares if you don't kind of go all out for this one, and then you have a year where US has like their C squad in there. Like, you don't want to see that. So I kind of like the 4 years thing. It makes sense. It aligns with all the other big tournaments, the Olympics, the World Cup, etc. So I don't know. I guess we'll see how the energy stays for it. And now this kind of leads into the season with some real excitement. And one of my only gauges that I have outside of social media and my own friends, I work at a high school, right? So I deal with high school students all the time. And these guys were tapped in. Now, granted, the ones I'm connecting with most are sports fans. They are baseball fans. Some of them do podcasts for the school and they talk sports, which is amazing. And they're all tapped in. They're talking about it. They were all watching every USA game. They were watching Japan games. That's awesome. Like you said, that's an absolute win. There's no really other way to skin that cat. So to put a pin in the World Baseball Classic, I mean, good stuff. I'm sad that I didn't watch as much as I could have. Obviously, there's plenty of sports going around that I was watching and tapped into, but it's all good. I'm not going to sit here and complain about it either. That would be stupid. That would be dumb.
We'll catch
So,
it. We'll catch you next time, Pete. We'll catch you next time.
yeah. There you go. I'll be more locked in for the next one. When in 2026 when that rolls around. But let's talk about the Yankees on Subway Sports Talk. Pete Kennedy, Andrew Calagna talking about the Yankees and a little bit of Mets in just a moment. And Andrew, there's really only one thing for us to talk about today. Next week, we're going to probably know the rosters for the most part. We're going to know, who's throwing opening day. We're going to know a lot more stuff. We're going to be excited about the over-under picks that we have for the year, who are our X factors, MVP odds, and all that fun stuff. Right now, there's really only one thing on Yankees fans' minds, and that is the shortstop position and Anthony Volpe. I made the joke texting to you when I broke your heart again, where I have a little rivalry going with you right now in our text chat. Most of it's me just poking fun, but just picture this beautiful spring day. It's April now. The sun is shining. You got a cold beer. You're at the stadium. Maybe a hot dog, chicken fingers. Who's to say what you like? And just there to watch IKF play shortstop for the New York Yankees.
Listen,
So
I've been
go ahead.
I've been locked into spring training, and like a couple weeks ago, I was actually genuinely concerned that IKF was going to be the opening day shortstop, but he actually hasn't started a game at shortstop since I think like March 7th or 8th. So now we're in the what's today, the 22nd. So he hasn't started a game at shortstop in a few weeks, and it's either been Peraza or Volpe starting at shortstop literally every single day. So that gives me hope that they're moving IKF into more utility role, or God, from my lips to God's ear, that he will be traded before opening day to a team that's in need of a utility infielder. So I'm not, you can jab all you want, friend, but I don't think that IKF will be the starting shortstop of the Yankees. As far as who I think it's going to be, I definitely think Volpe has made his
hang tight on that for a second. So I want to stay there for just a minute, because I mean, there are times in all franchises, history or whatever, present day, doesn't matter. There are times where fans are adamant about something, where there are some rational or people who think they're rational out there who are saying, no, fans, you silly fans, just relax. The team knows what they're doing. They have to give this guy more time, or, they don't have to make that trade, or they don't have to spend all that money for this guy. Let's trust the team. Let's trust the GM. I don't hear anybody on that side of things here with this Anthony Volpe conversation, even the Peraza part of the conversation. There seems to be a 100% approval rating on making Anthony Volpe the shortstop of the New York Yankees. What's it going to be like if that's not true? Before you get into who you think it's going to be or should be or whatever, what is the downfall? What is the conversations that are going to take place if Anthony Volpe is not on this roster come next Thursday?
It's gonna be a real tough pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, if it's Peraza and not Volpe, like it's a somewhat defensible position due to the fact that Volpe played like 15 games in AAA last year, and like Peraza kind of proved himself at the major league level. But that being said, Volpe has done literally everything that you could have asked him to do in spring training and then some to show that he's ready to take that next step. And, now the Yankees have, 6 infielders for 3 positions. and it's going to be tough to figure out because you also have Oswaldo Cabrera who can play the infield, but he might be he could be your starting left fielder if Hicks they don't decide to go with Hicks. So you have Donaldson, who I despise, and even though he hit 2 home runs the other day, he's still not. He's still swinging through fastballs. He's 37 years. Again, he's great defensively, but I feel like if you're going to give the kids a shot, if you start doing infield of Peraza at third or DJ LeMahieu at third and Volpe or Peraza at shortstop or some combination of those guys, then I'm great with it. But unfortunately, Donaldson's making $22 million a year, and there are no takers for Josh Donaldson at the moment. So, it could just be a numbers game that Volpe ends up in AAA. But if it's, it'd be a real tough pill to swallow if he's there. But if it's Peraza, it's a defensible move. But he's clearly shown that Volpe is the best shortstop in the Yankees organization at the moment. So it'll be tough. But if it's Peraza, I'll understand it.
It's really the kind of Falefa of it all that is going to be the most frustrating aspect to Yankees fans, around the tri-state area. So I mean, I totally get it. And it's one of those things where it's really easy for a fan to say, this is obviously what has to happen. What are you even thinking about right now, New York Yankees? And of course, there's more to the conversation than just what fans are saying. And there's more to the financial side of things, but fans don't want to hear that at all. They think that is baloney and BS, and spend the money and stop trying to manipulate to save yourself a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there. No one wants to hear that. So I'm with you. I think that it should be Volpe. I don't know if it will be Volpe just because of the Yankees' history and like what they've shown us. Based off what they've shown us over the past 5-10 years, it's not going to be him. It does feel like there's enough momentum to kind of move it in that direction, and he's playing well enough to move it in that direction. But to come here and be confident that that's going to happen, I don't think that's the right place to be. I think that's setting yourself up for some serious pain, if we're being quite honest. So, put your cards on the line, Drew. Put your chips on the table. What's going to be the Yankee shortstop situation in 1 week from now?
I think it's going to be Volpe. I think, there's been too much momentum. There's been talked up by not just Aaron Boone, but he's been talked up by Judge as it doesn't matter what age you are. If you can help this team win, I want you on the team. So I think it's got to be Volpe. Let's see what, I don't know if that means he'll be on the team the entire year. If he struggles, maybe they'll make a switch to Peraza. But I feel like the best infield right now has Gleyber Torres, it's some combination of DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Oswald Peraza, and Anthony Volpe in it. And, you're trying to win a championship. That's what you're trying to do. And if you have to make the hard decision and eat the money to just get rid of Donaldson and send him away for nothing, you have to do that. It's enough's enough at this point. You have to let the kids who show all this promise. There's been too many times where the kids have been too good to trade, but not good enough to be played. Just let them play. And, they've proven themselves, unlike, a situation across town where the Mets sent down Francisco Alvarez, if he's the actual catcher of the future, then, they have the stopgap in Narvaez where, it's okay for him to get to work on his defensively because the Mets have the capabilities to cover his offense with other positions, and they're fine offensively, so there's no need to rush him there, unlike the Yankees where they're in desperate need of offense around the infield. So you kind of have to go with Volpe and the kids, so just to have that injection of life of offense, because you're not getting that from Kiner Falefa or from Donaldson.
It really does make so much sense, and it's really almost obvious to everybody who's looking at it. There's cases around the league. There's test cases where they're playing the young guys and they're going out there. You look at the Atlanta Braves who, they get rid of Freddie Freeman, or not get rid of Freddie Freeman. They don't bring back Freddie Freeman just a year ago. And you think, oh, you lost your best player, MVP level player. no way they're going to be as good as they were last year. And guess what? They were just as good as they were last year. Now, did they win the championship? No, they did not. But they were the ones who won the division. They were in the position to do so. And that was by not holding back your talent, not by sitting saying, oh, you know what? We're going to wait a year or two to see what this guy's really got down in AAA. Some of these guys, if they're good enough, if they truly are the futures of a position of your franchise, they can have growing pains in the MLB and still make a positive impact. We saw it with the Yankees last year. Bringing up Cabrera and Peraza, even if their numbers weren't spectacular, they were able to add life into that team, into that lineup, into that defense, right? Like into the defense. Connor Falefa is supposed to be this defensive guy, solid shortstop, take care of business. He wasn't that guy last year.
No.
And at minimum here, Volpe's going to come up, play a great shortstop, steal bags, create opportunities. And if his offense is struggling a little bit, it's going to come along. Like, who's to say that him getting 30 to 50 more at bats in AAA is going to do anything for this guy? I'm not here to believe that. It's not something that I'm going to subscribe to because it doesn't necessarily work elsewhere. It hasn't worked for the Yankees. Like you said, all these prospects they've had over the past couple of years who, they're the future, they're this, they're that. Why would we ever consider trading them, even if it's for high-end talent? We can't do that. And then they fall apart in AAA. They fall apart at the majors. They fall apart again in AAA, and they have no trade value. So you have to just rip the Band-Aid off at some point. And this is the time for the Yankees to rip the Band-Aid off and peel off with that Band-Aid some of the stink that sticks to this franchise right now, about them being cheap, about them not taking risks, about them just doing the same old thing year after year after year. And this is a moment to reset the fan base. And I know that franchises shouldn't care that much what fans think, but Yankee fans are a different breed. They are out here and they are knowledgeable and they are locked in as any fan in the freaking world. If you rip that Band-Aid off and let Volpe be on the major league squad, you win back fans, and they don't care that you didn't go out and spend a boatload in free agency. They don't care that you didn't make the big trade last year when you had the chance. They're happy that this draft pick that's been the prodigal son for years to come is actually on this team, given the leash, given the opportunity to make some mistakes, but also make an impact day one. He's ready to play shortstop in the MLB. He's probably ready to hit enough at the MLB level. He's ready to make an impact, to cause some chaos, which this Yankees offense so desperately needs. They can hit home runs. They got two of the best bombers in the MLB. They need some different type of juice, and Volpe has that juice. It's obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more there. And listen, the only negative, the only downside I could see, again, if Volpe really struggles, then the newspaper articles and saying the Yankees made this huge mistake of passing on the free agent shortstop bonanza of the last two offseasons for this guy. So the second he struggles, I feel like there's going to be a lot of stories around, but like that's part of the learning curve for a 21-year-old kid, coming up and being the shortstop of the New York Yankees. Like, there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. He's got to get his feet wet. And I think he'll definitely make an impact. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him on opening day.
There you go. There you go. From your lips to God's ears, to Hal Steinbrenner's ears, to Cashman's ears, whoever's ears need to hear it. You just said it. So I'm with you. And I hope it's the case, because it's exciting. Again, you guys know me. If you listen to the show, not a Yankee fan, but I root for New York baseball success. When it comes down to it, yes, I'm going to make fun of the Yankees as much as humanly possible. Yes, I'm going to poke fun when they lose. Yes, I'm going to do all these things that Mets fans are supposed to do. But when it comes down to it as well, I want to see exciting baseball here in New York. And their best odds at having exciting baseball with a team with serious punch and a chance to make a splash, it's with Volpe on this roster. So hopefully that's going to be the case. Anything else to add on the Yankees before we move on and finish up?
No.
Save it for next week, right? We got
saving all my bullets, my good bullets for next week, my friend.
Yeah, good, because we have a full preview next week for the Mets and Yankees, talking MLB at large a little bit as well. Over-unders, the whole nine. I mentioned it already. So let's talk about the Mets super duper quick. Obviously, we touched on the Diaz injury a little bit already. A huge blow. The insurance, which is a nice little feather in the cap, I guess, or silver lining, whatever you want to call it, that is going to help cover his salary for this year. Maybe that'll help the Mets make a move during the season. There's already been rumors swirling about who they can bring in to become the closer. but one of their, if not their best strength, just got wiped out, Andrew. So where do they go from here? And in theory, how much of a blow can this loss truly be for a guy who pitches, maybe 3 to 5 innings a week? It feels it feels like a max level threat here, but what does it truly mean from your perspective for this Mets bullpen?
Well, he was the only like true lockdown guy that they had. Like Robertson is good. Ottavino's good. They're the solid guys setting him up. Brooks Raley, I really like him from Tampa. They got him, but those are good, not like amazing relievers. So you're gonna have a bunch of good relievers. You're not gonna have your great reliever, and there's nobody out there that you can just say we're going to go out and plug him into the roster. You can't go out and spend money at the moment. Unfortunately, happened at the worst possible time, right before the season starts, where people hold on to their depth. So I think there's a very good chance that Zach Britton will be a Met before opening day. He has that connection with Showalter, and he's a good veteran presence to be there. So, the Mets bullpen will look a lot like the Yankees 2019 bullpen with Ottavino, Britton, and Robertson in there. So that's nice. That's nice to be able to tune into Mets games and have some nice reminiscing moments of that bullpen. So,
Yeah,
but
as long as
there's really nothing you can do. There's really nothing you can do to weather the storm. It just shows that the Mets will be able to have to make a move at the deadline, if not sooner. So again, but you can't replace him. He's the nailed guy, which is funny because again, we used to make fun of Edwin Diaz a lot in the early years of this podcast. So it's funny how the turns have tabled, my friend. Yes, to quote Michael Scott.
Yeah.
So
It is one of those weird things where it does feel like a crash and burn scenario, losing him. But as I mentioned before, Freddie Freeman is one example. They were fine without their best player, MVP level player. The Mets in theory should be able to be fine here, but that is one of those positions that is so specific, right? Like you can't necessarily go into a year and say, oh, the greater good of the bullpen is going to pick up for Edwin Diaz loss, where you can say that for a position player, right? Like the greater good of the lineup is going to make up for the loss of, one bat in the lineup. For the closer being so specific, it's really difficult to kind of wrap your head around that notion. So I totally feel that angst, and like I feel why it's such a negative thing right here. But I do think the Mets can react and take care of business here. And we got plenty more time to speak about all of that, Drew, next week with our mega preview for the Mets and the Yankees. But that's all we got for today. We don't want to, go through the whole thing, because next week we're going to do it all. We're going to touch all the bases. We're going to hit it all. Me,
the
you,
whole
and
shebang.
that's it. So Subway Sports Talk, Alec Argento. He's not even freaking here. He doesn't deserve that. Andrew Calagna is here. P. Kennedy, that's me, is here. Please subscribe, rate, review to the podcast. You know what to do. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Subway Sports Talk, Andrew Calagna, P. Kennedy. That's all we got. Subway Sports Talk. Cheers.
See ya.